Once again, good morning. I'm Gundars Bergmanis-Korāts, and I'll be the one to help you out to understand when and what will happen and why, and how on earth you can take part in all that. So first, welcome to Latvia, the first, and that could be a beginning of a tradition, the first Nordic Sectech Summit 2022. And a special welcome to those who came from far away, for example, from Lithuania. Anybody from Lithuania? Yes, welcome. Estonia. Thank you. France. Is there anybody from France? There are in the list. Germany. Spain. All right, anybody from Latvia? You're welcome too. Well, this would be a great way to meet, and that's why we have some breaks. We'll have unofficial part starting at 5 o'clock this evening with lots of very interesting events. I hope you still have your tickets because there are numbers on the ticket, and that will be your lottery ticket also. There are some great prizes I will announce a little later, and that will begin in unofficial part at 5 p.m. Latvian time. Then, this is also a hard work. We've come together to understand what is working, what is not working, and what are the threats if we are talking about security. Then, also, this is really specifically dedicated event to security technologies, especially in times when security risks are as high as never before in the region. Our primary goal is to shake things up after 31st years of independence of Latvia, and also give the security industry the international attention, and so we can share experience with each other. Today, unifying theme is threat prevention through technology, with an emphasis on what your company can do, or what your company can learn with existing resources to minimize existing threats. Of course, we can always speak about need of money, but this is about what we can do with what we have. However, while we can gather here and discuss in peace and a secure place, less than 1,000 kilometers away, bombs are falling and peaceful people are dying. That's why I'd like you to stand up and just share this commemoration for unjustly fallen with a moment of silence. Thank you. Maris Baltbergs will be the one to open this conference. Maris is a chairman of the board of ALTAS IT, and he's the one to say, now let's begin. Maris, welcome to the stage.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. As you can hear, I have tuned in with my stage voice. So try to understand, and if you have any questions on my speech later on, especially on the tasks, come over and ask. So as Valdis just said, my name is Maris Baltbergs. And the main thing is that I believe in a future of security through technology. That is one of the reasons why I am here, and I believe that that is also the reason why most of you are here. Today there will be a lot of seriousness, because today's topic is very serious, and judging by your faces, you are all professionals in seriousness. So I have one suggestion: loosen up, smile. The most important thing about smile and being relaxed is we can preserve and get more information and remember it way much easier than when we are all stressed up. So today there will be a lot of information for you to remember, and a lot of things that you might want to share tomorrow with your colleagues, with friends. As we see day to day, the role of security and safety, both personal and commercial, just keeps growing, and the stakes are rising. I organized this summit as a logical step and as a way to join our forces against disturbing happenings around us. This event marks a turning point in our industry, at least if all of us let it to be such an event. Well, on the outset, it might seem that this is just another conference. Yet, in fact, this day that will initiate change in our society, at least it can be, as I said, if you let it to be. Today we will go deeper in topics of international security, artificial intelligence, thermal technology, and the role of technology in fighting cybercrime. And of course, there will be other powerful topics. We are all experts in field of security, and the positive future, to some extent, depends on all of us. It depends on our passion and curiosity to know more. It depends on us constantly asking questions. What is next? How can we do it better, faster, more efficiently? It depends on us pushing our limits for the sake of common good. It depends on us constantly learning and focusing on our vision. Today we have an impressive lineup of speakers. Lecturers for today's event are highly renowned experts and have been chosen intentionally and for a reason. The reason is very simple. This is just the value that these people can bring to us. Therefore, I encourage you to listen closely to today's speakers and read, or should I say listen, in between the lines. And think of situations in life where you can put this information to actual use. The change I mentioned is about our mindset and the way we perceive the world. We all know how important this topic is, yet we tend to have a narrow focus on it. We are more likely to focus on a very close circle, although the safety and security of our close circle largely depends on well-being of a much wider circle. Our intention with this summit is to start to change, or would I say give it a new, better push, to widen our perspective and notice how seemingly distant events and progressive solutions are in fact very relevant and might affect our lives. The future needs us to be proactive. It needs us to be visionaries. So most of us gathered here are driven by technical and analytical thinking. Yet recent global events have reminded us that security goes much deeper than technical equipment and statistics. It touches lives of people in so many ways. It concerns emotional aspects and the quality of our lives. This expands today's topic and makes it so much more important. I actually see some people nodding, so I'm sure you know what I mean. If I could ask just one thing of you today, that would be to pin down 4 things. 4 things that you didn't know before today, or that you know would change the world around us. Write those things down if you need, and go about your day tomorrow and share these things with other people. in the end, I think that would benefit all of this situation to them and to us to make a better and safer tomorrow. Basically, that is why my company, ALTAS IT, and this is actually what is my company, ALTAS IT, all about. We bring the top-notch technology to Baltic states. We do it hand in hand with our partners. And I see many of you are here. We do it by sharing everything that we know about the technology and security, of course. We do it because we think it's not enough that we are the smart guys. We think the more security technology experts will be there, the better. The conference is a huge step in that direction. But knowledge, information, and contacts are nothing without proper execution. And this is where our partners come in. As I see it, there are two ways you can take. Firstly, become an exceptional technology expert and the highest top expert in your company. For that, there is just one question to ask yourself. What did you do today for sake of becoming a top security expert? Well, it's pretty obvious about today because you are here, right? Secondly, become an implementer. Having smart people around is great, but we also need some action people. If you feel that power within you, then I have another question for you. What is the first step that you have to take to make that happen? Whichever of these two steps you take, it brings us to where we all want to be, in a safer tomorrow. Well, that would be all of my inspirational speech. I'll give the floor to our prominent speakers now. All this is for you. Enjoy it, take the best of it, and mainly remember, pin down 4 things that you will share tomorrow to make the world safer. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Maris. And thank you for this heroic speech, knowing what you're fighting now. So as Maris just said, let's loosen up and let's get to work. And at the end, I would love really to hear from you those 4 things you chose from today to use and make your work better and help your clients and yourself better with security. Our next speaker, Dmitry, is from Latvia but currently works in Prague. And he's a senior security software engineer at Microsoft. But in total, Dmitry has about 10 years of experience in the field of information security. And he will be speaking about artificial intelligence. And the question is, can artificial intelligence help security professionals improve the operations? And especially if we talk about disinformation. But that will come the next question. Now, this will begin about most common mistakes that lead to failures in the application of artificial intelligence. So we all have been there, because we are most commonly targeted people in the industry. That's why the more experience you have, the more mistakes you have made. And let's see what Dmitry has to tell about that. Please welcome Microsoft Senior Security Software Engineer, Dmitrijs Trizna. Dmitry?
Hey everyone. Today we will talk about artificial intelligence applicability for security operations, basically for defensive needs, how we can use AI to detect stuff, right? Roadmap is as follows. We first of all focus on maybe some general AI improvements over the last years. Then with the side note to cybersecurity, what are mistakes, how to avoid them, what works. Specifically of those techniques that works, we'll cover statistical methods, traditional machine learning techniques, and deep learning. Brief bio, why you should trust me in this topic. Like, started here, like, about, I don't know, long ago in Riga, worked in Latvia, like, defending industrial setting, then worked in one of the, let's say, best teams in Baltics of red teaming, like evolution from an offensive point of view. Then moved to Prague, back to defensive postures and applied ML techniques for defensive needs, now working in Microsoft as like defending cloud backend with AI. I have a good track of academic experience, like 2 master degrees, because artificial intelligence is the field that is powered by scientific method. And you should be able to read papers, even write them. That's what we do as well. And a bunch of certificates like OSCP, SANS, Stanford ones, and briefings on like top venues like Black Hat, DEF CON this last year. So jumping in, let's first of all, a bit of taxonomy. What is ML, what is AI? Basically, machine learning is a field of study that includes lots of algorithms. Deep learning, which is a fancy word for neural networks, is one of them, but there are many other like models that live under this hood. And AI is this umbrella term for ML, for machine learning, but for other fields as well, like ethics. Like, do we give rights to robots, right? Biases within the models, like, so it does not, I don't know, include sexism or something like that within them. Alignment problems. How do we build AI so it helps humanity, not destroys it? Like, if we task a really powerful AI to build a paper clips, it can build paper clips so good that like it doesn't care about us, right? And many things. But for security, we really can avoid this branch of discussions, and we can consider that like for security, AI is basically machine learning, which are algorithms. AI just sells better, that people use like artificial intelligence more often, but basically those are algorithms, and algorithms are just software. So it's not a magic something that does a lot of stuff. It's just a software that works, and we code it and we task it to do something. How AI development looks like there are promising results from time to time. Like in news, we see something. This like yields some expectations and forecasts, which produces some funding, and more funding would result in more promising results. In security, we unfortunately often see expectations or forecasts too salesworthy, right? Vendors want to sell their product, and as a result, they are speculative. As a result, this additional funding does not always lead to promising results. That's true. And in fact, that led to so-called AI winter back in 70s and 90s of last century, when AI research was almost completely halted. And as a result, there is this pendulum of public society opinion on AI, where at one degree, public thinks that AI will solve everything, all problems, replace security engineers, replace humans, and another like swing of pendulum, people are saying AI is a fraud, and like, where are all the self-driving cars, right? They are not here, and why? But in truth, it's somewhere in between. Let's see whether like AI is indeed like a fraud in 2022. Generative AI in computer vision is so powerful. Last like 4 months really was such a huge boost for it. We can now generate just from a prompt an image, basically. AI now wins and like art competitions. It's like surpasses human artists already. This image was generated by AI that won that NYT competition they mentioned. And there are free models. Every one of you can use them. Stable Diffusion, download it, play with it. It will generate you anything you ask. And this reveals new fields of security as well. For instance, there are red teaming like of AI algorithms itself, because if you can generate anything, you can generate something like inappropriate, right? And in fact, they proved that, for example, Stable Diffusion is good on defending some nudity or sexual content, but when it comes to violence, it's easy to generate violent images that can be used in disinformation or something. Like, you give it more resources, the more realistic it gets, and it's wild. Like, in the next 5 years, we will see a lot of applications of this, and this will transform how many things happen in our lives. Similar thing with the language models. We see AI able to reason, to use text on the level of human. Like, basically, Turing test is passed. With the communicating by only textual way, you will not distinguish whether this is human or AI anymore. They are able to reason about death. They pursue experts that they are sentient. In fact, I advise you to read, for example, this article. It really covers extensive discussion of one Google engineer with their model. And after that, they suspended him because this raises some easy questions for public to give rights to that model or not. And those models are public as well. T5, distributed by Hugging Face, download it. It contains English, like all language within itself, and it can do something like that. Implications on disinformation is huge. But what we see in information security, like data science say they detect anomalies, but as a result we see something like this, like huge amount of, I don't know, red flags, and this doesn't help security engineers at all when you see like thousands of them. And the situation is something like this in 2022. Like, AI in CV and NLP is huge, but in information security, it's kind of nah. It's not there yet. It's not mind-blowing, right? And what went wrong? What like sort of are at least things that hold off AI in security? The problem is that there is a gap between like information security as a field and data science as a field. We have this applicability problem. Why is that? It's because usage of AI requires bilingual knowledge. Like, researchers in the domain of NLP and computer vision, they know their subject of study perfectly. Everyone knows how to speak at least one language, and everyone knows how to see, right? And that's because application of AI on those domains is sort of intuitive for them. But when we speak about information security, that's the problem. Like, people who apply AI or who really deeply understand it don't know security field. People who know security field don't really know AI deeply, and that's the problem. And by my work, I'm trying to maybe lower this gap between information and data science field. And in the following slides, I will show how you security folks can use, like, I am security like specialist as well. I'm started in security, but slowly digging into AI. And the things we need is easier applications of AI for security people. And for that, let's stay unwrap what is security, what is detection engineering. We will speak about detection needs. By building detections, we try to answer what is bad, right? Like this command. Who in this room knows what is Mimikatz? Can you raise your hand? Okay, not many. I expected more, because Mimikatz is, I don't know, it's the most known, not let's say malware, but a tool that malware uses. And on the bottom is the legit command. Like, every Windows system that boots up executes multiple of these processes. So security is easy, right? We just detect what is bad and profit. Like, it's easy, we solved it. Unfortunately, no. There are a huge amount of gray area that we really don't know. Is it bad? Is it good? In some circumstances, it is bad. In some circumstances, this is not bad. So really, what we do is not trying to answer what is bad, but we were trying to answer what is not representative for your environment. That's the essence of security. What is yours is good. What's unusual for you, this is bad. And or at least it's worth interest of your security department. And in this case, specifically, ML can help to cover this gray area. this gray area, in fact, that's what's used by adversaries today, like live breaches, lapsus activity against T-Mobile, Okta, and many other companies, including Microsoft, by the way. Uber breach, basically a few weeks ago, they all exploited those gray areas, MFA bypass. Uber done this by spawning user with the many VPN second factor authentication requests, and user finally accepted that because he got annoyed with notifications. Internal threats, lapsus used internal personal in mobile networks to spoof the second factor messages. And those areas we can cover with ML. One example, for instance, legit activity, kernel 32 DLL loads by system. It is like main interface for applications to talk with the Windows kernel. And many applications do this. Like we can capture this event by system ID 7. It records library load events. And in 5 weeks, we have 30 million hits. If we try to filter legitimate applications that do this, we still, like, after a dozen examples, we still have 70 hits in 5 weeks, and that's not the way to go. That's not how security heuristics are built. You cannot really filter your baseline just with the if-else's, like we done with Mimikatz. And for that, we really need ML, or at least something more sophisticated. You might not need really ML at all. First of all, focus on these statistical analysis techniques that are possible. For example, in fact, statistics really is not far away from ML. ML really borrows 70 or 80% of their techniques from statistical analysis, just add some iterative logic on top. And we have a lot of similar statistical patterns in our environments. All of your networks have this distribution of data within. For example, I discussed this in this topic. We don't have time to dig deeply in that, but if you're interested in more, I definitely encourage you to take a look on this article. And it basically is count-based statistics about any type of data you have. And that's what we can use for kernel 32 DLL as well. We take those events, we count which processes use it, and we only investigate processes that loaded this library less than 5 times, for example, in a week or in a day. It depends on your environment. And you will catch rare stuff, no ML needed. You will catch rare that is of interest for your security department. That's it. Profit, good security heuristic. But yeah, there are cases when those manual methods, when you define some rule or some statistical methods like this fail. And in that case, ML can help. And if you use ML, we go for deep learning. Do you remember? It's that branch under ML umbrella that does the neural networks, because neural networks are cool. We need to go there right away. Please, no. Neural networks is a pitfall. If you go there right away, you will lose a lot of time. You will lose a lot of human resources. Take a look on conventional ML techniques. And if you are, for example, that's the thing I'm trying to emphasize. Not obligatory you implement them yourself, but when vendors come to talk to you, use these logics, ask them for statistical methods, ask them for conventional ML techniques, because those work better usually. This is, for example, meta-analysis that does analysis of many algorithmic families, and it showed that, for example, conventional technique like XGBoost, will not focus in detail what it is, but I will show you, in fact, does the thing much faster with higher accuracies than many deep architectures. And the same applies to anomaly detection. There are neural network architectures to detect anomalies, like autoencoders and others, but something like ensemble of isolation forest, which does relatively simple logic, detects outliers much faster at least. And in many cases, it solves your problems, especially in security domain. And but here the main challenge is not what model to use, but for you to take your data, which is like system logging or something like that, and transform it into a numerical array. Some vendors help to do this. They provide already to use pipelines. Like if you use CMs, some of them include this, others not, and you need to do it yourself. And for that, another thing that I see is a huge problem for industry that I covered as well. definitely, if you're interested in this aspect, we will not focus here, but go and step-by-step instruction is in this article. Basically, we take a command of, for example, in that case, I used Linux commands, and we encode it in numerical array just by like step-by-step how to do this with code samples and everything. And it's not that hard. It's actually like just a thing that you need to learn one time, and that's it. Another problem when you apply like ML on your data, I see that people ask incorrect questions to the models. First of all, questions are too broad. We ask like, give me a like anomalous process name, or give me a rare connection, and those are like. That's why we see this picture. Data science don't know that anomalous in your network doesn't mean bad. Everything happens sometimes for the first time. Like your network, every one of your network has something anomalous today, and it's not malicious, it's benign. But it will be flagged by such solutions. Therefore, your questions to, like for example, anomaly detection should be around specific technique, TTP it's called in security. For example, give me anomalous Python invocations. Give me anomalous SSH logins to like specific set of family, like domain controllers or jump hosts, in that case SSH, RDP to domain controllers. And this gives the desired picture. This gives a few anomalies only. In fact, this one is a visualization of Python processes, and one of them is malicious. And yeah, here, if I have a moment for, basically, maybe any one of you know what like any of these commands do. They basically do the same, but in different form. Maybe you can raise a hand if you recognize them. Yeah, cool, thank you. And yeah, those are the reverse shell commands that you can execute on a compromised host, and it will throw you a full control over the host to your location. In this case, for example, 10.0.0.1. And we can, like it's often used by adversaries and like anyone in your network. And we can try to take a look at on demo how this works. Yeah. Yeah, it's here. So basically, this is a code, like a notebook that does this, but we will not focus through all code details, but basically, we will task it take only 4 features for now, and we see that it gives a good metrics, and with some false positive rate, for example, one false sample out of I don't know, 1,000 samples, it gives something like 96% of detection rate by just using those 4 features, like in a command. And this is a command. We basically feed into a method, and we see the probability of badness is 97%. And here we just take random choice of 10 commands from our test set. Test set is a set that wasn't used for training a model. And we see that some commands that are like weird, given like 26% of probability, and this one is legitimate command, but it's like 26%, but bad commands are like 97 and something. We can increase this amount what machine learning takes into account. For instance, for 500, let's say, and retrain the network. Let's take a look how long it takes. It's basically training on 200,000 samples. And it really takes, 10 seconds. 10 seconds to train this conventional algorithm. Here we see a perfect curve that it detects basically all the bad commands in our test set. And here we see this command was, still 97%, but if we analyze the choices, we now see much more confidence, like 97 in this per command, which was 69, and it's now like much more confident that this is a good command rather than bad. And now it uses like all those features from the command line, and there is no way you can do this manually. You cannot task your logic to analyze all this. And DML is like perfect for this, 10 seconds. And you can do this with the vendors, you can do this manually, and basically any string can be used. For instance, here, if we task to take just basic bash -L. Which is legit command. It will say that this is like a good command. So it's pretty robust logic, and for that, DML is really a solution. When to consider deep learning? Again, deep learning are neural networks. When you want to go through this from conventional techniques to really fancy stuff. If you have pre-trained networks, NLP and computer vision really a direction when they ship the pre-trained network. That's what I shared you. You can download them and use, for instance, NLP for chatbots or disinformation. In fact, that's the thing which it will be used a lot in next years. Computer vision for security needs, you can do, for example, object detection on CCTV streams. You can detect people in some forbidden areas, and if someone appears there, you can send an email or a message in a Slack or something like that. Or you can train your own network, but in that case you need really, let's say, a lot of data and a bilingual, at least, if not a person who knows both fields, but then a team. When within the same team you have a security guy and AI guy. If those are separate teams, for example, security department and data science department, they really have usually, it doesn't work well. Usually it's better to put different people with different background in the same team. People would say that computing resources as well are important. I'd say this is not a huge problem usually. Like medium-sized businesses can afford to train the networks. The first two bullets are more significant. Example where deep learning works is, for example, PE classification for malware needs when we take an exe files, and in that case, yeah, basically, that's what I presented in the Black Hat as well. This scientific, let's say, way how we analyze the PE samples. This needs a deep learning. Here we can't go with traditional methods. Yeah. Okay. Conclusions. AI is a software. It's a tool. It's not a magic stuff that substitute humans. It's a tool that you need to use, like any other tool you use in your work. Uses as extension to your techniques, not substitution. It will not substitute you. I like to think about security as a Swiss cheese model. When we really cannot solve security. It's not solvable stuff, but we reduce risks by doing our work. And every new, let's say, day that you contribute to your stuff, it reduces risks for adversaries to compromise your network. You start with signature rules. They should persist. It's a way to detect the really bad stuff, which we know is bad. And then we add additional layers of, I don't know, logics on top. And those include only technical. There are lots of procedural methods to add, like least security, architecture of network. And you layer them up to reduce the risk of compromise. Do not use ML when not needed. Like this, many want to use it because it's fancy, it's hypey topic. Think twice before you do this. It can take a lot of resources, but those who will master ML really will have an advantage against those adversaries, against the threat that we face from government-funded groups that are threatening our region. And we really need ML for that. We need to distinguish what is this gray area. Yeah, that's it. If we have a time for questions, then we can do it. You can grab a Medium link to if you're interested in those few articles that I mentioned, or follow on Twitter. Yeah.
Thank you, Dmitry. Thank you. Like I said, it will be a hard work. So, in case you dare to ask questions of Dmitry, just raise your hand, and we'll be happy to help you. Yes, please take photo if needed. AI nowadays, at least in Europe, are not somehow stopped by technology. Technology is there. But liability questions. It's always about regulations. Mm-hmm. Where are we standing here in security field on liability and responsibility on technology and results?
Yeah, good question. Liability is really, for example, a huge problem for self-driving cars. We have algorithms that do it almost perfectly, but few cases still pushes it down. Even though that, like, when human is driving, there are more fatalities on the roads than in AI-driven stuff. In security, it is less of a problem. I'd say mostly you implement this in-house. When you go and try to sell something, you might think twice whether this affects your data somehow, and people are not willing to give their data, for example, to train a model. But when you build it in-house, or like CM vendor provides you an algorithmic pipeline and you build it on your data, I would say this is not like a focus right now. The focus right now is this gap between the fields, and that people in security are sort of afraid of AI and really don't know how to use it, because we know how to use Linuxes, we know how to use many stuff that we use every day. AI is, in fact, will be one of them in 5 years, but today people are still sort of afraid.
Do people used to trust it more and more, or it's the insecurity is still there?
Let's say there is less skepticism in last years. It was hugely skeptical, amount of people in InfoSec like 5 years ago, but today people see that this indeed helps them and can really solve their problems if applied correctly. So, let's say people are more trusting, but it's still rolling. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Dmitry. Round of applause. We'll have also, after next speaker, we'll have a short break, and then you will have an opportunity to ask questions directly in case you do have any. Now, let's move on to our next speaker, who's senior expert on artificial intelligence at NATO StratCom Center of Excellence. And we will continue on AI. In this case, Dmitry already mentioned also this information, and we will talk about the role of modern technologies in shaping and spreading disinformation. And we have a very special guest who really works hard on this every single day. And he is Gundars Bergmanis-Korāts. Please welcome.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. And my today's brief is called The Double-Edged Sword of AI in Today's Information Environment. There is no doubt that the technology plays an important role in today's societies, in peacetime and in war. And especially war showed how crucial the ubiquity-enabling technologies plays in order to enable better intelligence operations, as like OSINT, open source intelligence, as simple communication, early warning, and so on. At the same time, these technologies can be used to deceive and to manipulate. And this is the essence of this brief today. So, my first slide is dedicated to the technology itself. It's inherently neutral. We, society, different groups of societies, countries, governments decide what to do with this technology. Either we can create something good for environments, something good for societies, for businesses, or we can use the same technology to deceive, to manipulate, and create troll farms, for example. And one of the obvious conclusions is that if not appropriately regulated, the artificial intelligence and artificial intelligence-enabled services, products, can complement the disinformation activities, and they are already. So imagine your everyday life on your smartphone. You have these social platforms that you use, right? And we see these platforms as a communication layer, as an information aggregation, and a way of shaping your perception about the world. So this is a layer which allows you to communicate with different societies, with your friends, families, co-workers. At the same time, you have to think a little bit from different angle, and there is part of society which is not playing the role of everyday human. These are the inauthentic accounts, the bot accounts. These are accounts that are used to spread specific type of information, and this is usually done through different services. There is one example on the slide, which is based in Russia, where you can log in, you can earn money by spreading information, which is specifically like prescripted. So what this means is that through this communication layer, then people can start to argue about seemingly simple things, and the societies can become more polarized. And this is what we do not want. And for this reason, so this wouldn't be just an empty word, we do conduct specific experiments from year to year, and we benchmark these social media platforms to understand how easy it is to manipulate with these platforms. And here, in this graph, you see a time of delivery of manipulation. So basically what we did is we purchased a harmless, completely harmless, apolitical manipulation on these specific mentioned platforms that you see there. And there is a delivery time when people really actually go and deliver these manipulations. I'm talking about likes, shares, and comments. And you see that there are platforms which are doing better, which are delivering less manipulation, and there are platforms which are completely free of, completely like prone to manipulation, right? So we see that VK of Kontakte were able to provide 100% of manipulation after 72 hours. So what? So what question? So after the experiment, what we did and what we do from year to year, we use the reporting framework built into these social media platforms, and we report these specific accounts that were used for manipulation to see whether they do something about it. And you can ask yourself now, what is the percentage which is left from these inauthentic accounts after 5 days? So the answer is quite striking, right? So on some platforms, 100% of manipulation after specifically reporting on their own systems was left on the platform. All the platforms basically above 90%. So what does this tell us from the security perspective? This tells us that these platforms can do much, much more. And this tells us that this is our infrastructure, this is our Western infrastructure that has become a crucial part of our everyday lives. Right? So knowing these weaknesses of these social platforms, for example, during the wartime, we would expect that these weaknesses can be exploited by adversary actors, for malicious actors to spread the disinformation, right? So we analyzed also the timeline of engagements on Twitter platform before and after the war in Ukraine started. And what we saw was quite interesting, actually, is on the blue is colored the retweets, daily retweets supporting the Kremlin narrative. But the orange one is the anti-Kremlin narrative. So we see that the international society, the Russian-speaking international society, really reacted on the events happening and used these platforms to spread and to spread their concerns, to spread their emotions, to talk and to discuss it and to raise awareness. So the technologies of today plays and will play even more crucial role in communications, in the ways how we perceive the world and how we see the events. Let's talk a little bit about the bots. Previously, few years ago, not quite a few years ago, like 5 years ago, we could see that bots are quite faceless accounts with randomly generated usernames and so on. But nowadays, thanks to the artificial intelligence, the bots and bot networks look like this. So all are really realistic with realistic names and so on. And this is thanks to the specific type of artificial intelligence, which is called the generative adversarial networks, which was used initially to generate these faces and used also in deepfake technology. But now this technology has evolved even more. So only few years of the timeline, and so huge development of the artificial intelligence. And there are freely available web resources where you can just go, and with one click you can generate a realistic profile information. And when you combine these two, then you get these realistic bot accounts. And Gartner actually predicted that in 2030 there will be more synthetic or computer-generated data online than the real-world data, measured real-world data, which is quite interesting trend of synthetic data as well. So that's also what we have to take into account also from security perspectives. And our colleague before in previous talk already touched the topic of language generation algorithms, the performance of them, and also the diffusion models. But I would like to show a small example of the current capabilities of different algorithms. And what we did is we took this news article, we copied the text, and we asked one of the most capable language generation algorithms to generate something for us. So we have an access to OpenAI GPT-3 model, and we took the Da Vinci model to generate. We asked this algorithm to generate 5 angry pro-Kremlin responses to this text that you saw in the previous slide. And this is within the second it showed up with these suggestions. So. Given the context, these large algorithms can provide you already a means to create a disinformation activity. So the good news is that these large models, the vendors of these and maintainers of these large models attempt to some extent to monitor what these models are doing. And here we circled around that actually the OpenAI indicated us that we are trying to generate something sensitive. And if we do it more and more and more, we can get blacklisted. So why this is important is because when the war was ongoing, we did monitor a little bit the different social media platforms. And what we saw is quite interesting that the comments appeared on YouTube, for example. This reacting to the pro-Western content, the pro-Kremlin comments appeared in really fast pace, and you all see that with very similar language, and this makes us think that the language generation models are already being used by malicious actors to disseminate their narratives. So what is also quite interesting, there are the communication platforms called Telegram, and most of you maybe use it already. And this communication platform is being used as a means to spread the disinformation in Kremlin-aligned channels as well. And what we saw is that in some channels there are pre-programmed bots which reacts to specific keywords. If you write text including keyword like Nazism or sanctions or Ukraine, then immediately you get a pre-scripted response from the bot, which also kind of, for unexperienced user, makes think that the people really think in this way, right? So another threat from these technologies is already before mentioned, the deepfakes. We saw during the crisis, we saw that there was a cheap fake made article disseminated in social media, but it was really fast tackled by the international community because it was an obvious one. But what if this type of the multimedia format is being created in much more qualitative way, so it's not so easy with the eyes to tell. What we did is we also did an experiment, and we analyzed a week before and week after the kinetic movement started towards towards the Ukraine, And our conclusion is that this technology is used sporadically. We saw some indications of using deepfakes and so on, but it wasn't, the more qualitative deepfakes were not involved, which is quite interesting. And also from cybersecurity perspective, the Sensity AI is showed in the showcase that where biometric authentication can be fooled by using the deepfake when you have to authenticate by showing your face. And this is the topic that I will run over because it was already shown partly by previous speaker. It's about the generative models. A few years ago, OpenAI came to public, announced the DALL-E model, which allowed to generate from images by providing a prompt of the text. And for this specific image, the prompt was generate me a chair in the shape of avocado. So this is what how AI imagined this chair to be. But a few years later, so this is the current state of this capability of these artificial intelligence algorithms. And why it's important is because, indeed, we took these algorithms, we took these stable diffusion algorithms mentioned by previous speaker, and we tried to generate something like politically aligned. And this is what we came up in 10 minutes. And even more. So you can generate something like that, or even more. But the reason why it's important is because memes and different kind of images are being used to disseminate the disinformation as well. And what we will see definitely in near future is that this AI-generated context will be used more and more also in political activities. So the latest advancements by Meta is you provide a static image and AI tries to imagine how this would look in a video, or you can feed in video and generate different versions of the video. And the latest by Google is an algorithm which tries to continue speech or song. It tries to continue audio. You provide a small sample, a prompt of your speech or prompt of your song, and AI tries to generate it, to continue it. So we are at this very stage of the AI performance. But when we talk about the disinformation, and from the blue team perspective, it's really hard, it's really difficult to go into the social media platforms or to open a news article and tell, okay, this is disinformation. It's extremely hard to do that because we have to be certain with attribution, and we have to understand that this is or this is not part of bigger coordinated operation, right? It's not just a shared opinion on something, because in democratic society, you cannot forbid people to think in less informed ways. And if it is hard for us, for human brain, to shape it, to frame it, to put in a solid definition, then it's even harder to put it in algorithms, right? So that's why detecting disinformation is a very challenging and difficult task, even if you are using cutting-edge AI. So today, what we see is how we perceive the role of artificial intelligence, that in data processing pipelines, when you extract your raw data from web or from sensors from anywhere, this is where AI can come in and filter out the data. Also, the information extraction, if we talk about NLP, then named entity recognition, different classification techniques, and so on, you name it, this is what AI can currently do. But on the same time, we still have to check the results, filter them, clean them, and so on. We have to involve a lot of manual work. But what we expect is that in the near future, AI will be able to reach also this intelligence part and give us a conclusion and suggestions, right? So this is the part where we could steer towards the intelligence user interfaces topic, right? So this is just an expectation, but it will take quite a long time till we get there. And currently, we use AI to analyze, fully automatically to analyze narratives. Here is an example of 3 days before, more days after the 24th of February. You can see on the timeline where the 24th of February is, so the different coordinated, aligned narratives being spread by Russian media outlets. And one of the interesting things is that, yes, AI is capable, we can do it, we can do a lot of shiny things with it. But if you look into these examples, we took these examples as a social post, let's call it like that, and which are quite offensive. And we do try to estimate the sentiment with one of the most popular open source model available on Hugging Face. And this is the result it came up with. So from the first one, yeah, it was able to tell that this is rather negative, but still quite not sure. But for the bottom example here, you are cute for a dark-skinned girl. This is a toxic text. This is toxic negative text. And the model was quite unsure. And if you are integrating such models into content moderation software as a part of security technologies, then you have to take into account that these classification models can hardly fail. And we have to take into account, we have to invest a lot more to understand how to go beyond these polar emotions. So another point I want to make with this brief is that during the war of Ukraine, there is a company called Clearview AI, which provided a facial recognition, a very powerful, the world's one of the most powerful facial recognition, allowing to identify the Russian soldiers. At the same time, this company was fined by 7.5 million pounds because this company overstepped the GDPR. So there is always a trade-off between the regulation and between the innovation. And this is an open question, how we can keep an edge in this regulatory space. And GDPR indeed works, and there is a new Digital Services Act coming in force in European Union. So how we can keep the edge of education, this is an open question. And also here, this image is taken from one of the news sites, pulled from GDELT database, and it was automatically tagged by AI. And this is an image from Bucha, from where the massacre happened. But AI tagged it as a touristic place with the tourists taking pictures, right? So the context is what lacks the current AI. And we have to take into account that the current, this is the reason why AI capability still reaches only into information extraction, not into the intelligence part, because it lacks the context. The second thing that AI lacks is this. Please raise a hand who understands what is there. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So these bars, these color bars, are representation of cartoon characters. So in the middle there are Simpsons. So the current AI and the near future AI lacks the abstract thinking. And this is why we cannot fully rely on artificial intelligence. Human brain can comprehend it, but the AI, no. Let's finish with this, with these weaknesses of AI. What we did as well is we researched the role of data brokers as well. And we specifically purchased from the data brokers an area around the Riga, and we tried to understand how far we can go. And this is a turning point when we understood that GDPR indeed works. But because this data broker vendor didn't want to give us the raw data and so on, so they didn't want to open it up. But we managed to get enough data to launch, for example, a PR campaign towards a specific age group and so on. So you can read more on this report. But AI, we cannot imagine the performance of AI without data. And these data brokers do have these different kinds of data. And we have to take into account, as a security technology developers and vendors, where do this data go, who is storing this data, and how malicious actors potentially can use this data to target specific target audiences. And the next challenge, what we see is that thanks to the new generation of wireless technologies like 5G, and everyone is already talking about the 6G without 5G being appropriately implemented, there will be an always connected society. And this is a new era where everything is being measured at every time due to the sensors that we will use and implement in smart city infrastructure, in different computer vision solutions and so on. And it is a new era because the digital journalism as well will change due to the new dynamic, new immersive visualization techniques. And as Joshua Benton said, the new technologies often establish new norms. So this is unexpected what will happen as well now. And before I conclude this presentation, I want to show these two timelines. We see that the wireless and communication technologies, the physical layer, is developing at a rapid pace. At the same time, the web technologies, the web itself, is on the brink of Web 3.0, where all this information sharing logistics will implement also the blockchain technology, and this will have a huge impact as well. And then, when these two, physical and digital worlds, will be merged together using the metaverses, using the new digital universes, which will reflect the digital and physical world events into them. So this will bring a new challenges. So I would encourage all of you to visit the 5G Territory event, where we will organize a side event as well dedicated to this topic. And yeah, so these technologies, indeed, new sensors, new ways of data will enhance the user profiling, technically. And this, the blockchain, but supply chain challenges will cause privacy risks. And because of the different standards of security and different understanding of security of different technologies which are connected to the web, and which will cause also the cyber insecurity. So main takeaways from all of this brief are following. The first one, the social media platforms that we use to communicate, use to receive the information, can be manipulated, and we have to take care of that. So that's why we have to be very critical. So media literacy is a must thing to have. The second thing is that the current disinformation activities involve creative generations of new ways of data. So artificial intelligence is already slowly supporting the different disinformation activities. And the third one, we are on the brink of Web 3.0, metaverses, and 5G, and always connected societies. This will bring a new security challenges to all of us. So security first, and stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Gundars. Thank you. Any questions? Questions or objections, maybe? Yeah, here we have one.
Hi, I have a question. So maybe discussion point. So we can say that we are now at kind of war where social engineers know which buttons to press to get reactions, and people are really using that to move masses, to use it in political battles and so on. So what should be adequate response to that kind of threat?
So the first thing is that media literacy as itself and talking to society, to general audiences, is a must thing to have. So like this educational layer should come always on the top. And the governments, the societies, the governments, the institutions, and all the communicators should always be fast, clear, and transparent when they communicate about these risks to mitigate them. The second thing is that we have to involve more these social media platforms into a dialogue, into a conversation, not only to point a finger to them and tell you are bad, but we have to invite them more into the discussion and say, okay, we have regulations like this, like Digital Services Act, and we have the GDPR, and we have whatever kind of regulation framework we have here in the European Union. And we have to make them to comply with that, and we have to make this digital environment more secure. So these are two first things that we have to do, and this is already what is happening, but we just have to keep doing it and keep doing more passionately.
But also, a dialogue is impossible if, like, in case of U.S. Congress, most of the people don't even understand what, for example, Mark is saying.
Yeah, that's why this education layer comes first. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Gundars. And we have, yes, round of applause. Then there's some very useful information. There's some 4 zones we can use here today. This hall, then the next one where the dinner will be at some time. Lunch. Then there will be an exhibition hall you all are invited to. And then, next to the registration, there's a door to the workshops. That's where you can go and do your workshops. And take a look there, please. Then, there will be also an unofficial part at 5 o'clock with some kind of music. And later on, we'll have a little questionnaire. What kind of music do you like? And let's see if we have hit the right button. That will take part after the technical break after this day. Then there will be also a drawings or the lottery. I hope you all have your tickets intact, because those will be your lottery tickets. And just to name few prizes we will have from our sponsors. We have supporters, and they are sporty, delicious, and fast. We'll draw a basket of delicious or delicacies from Putnu Fabrika Ķekava. Then we will have giant gift sets of Cēsu Alus, which is a beer company. Someone will be able to train for a whole month in My Fitness in any of the branches here. And then we know that you, like us, looking at the prices at the gas stations, are getting a little bit worried if you still use your car with inner combustion engine. We will have like twice per 50 euros from Neste Latvia. So that will come in our unofficial part after 5 o'clock here today. This is where a round of applause should go off. Thank you.